new age technologies, applications in the Indian context. Please join me in welcoming our session chair and panelists on stage. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to our session chair and panelists. To begin this session, I would like to invite the session chairman, Mr. Hari S. Bhartiya, co-chairman and managing director, Jubilant Farmova Limited, to give his opening remarks and take the session forward. Over to you, Mr. Bhartiya.
Good morning. Good morning. we had a great session in the morning with the finance minister, and now we have a great set of panelists, and we are going to talk about how do we leverage technology in India's context. So friends, ladies and gentlemen, first let me give you a warm welcome to this session. And today morning when I was thinking about what we are going to chat about, I was starting to list on the pace of technology and how it evolved in the last 2 centuries. So I've jotted down a few things which I want to read out. If I look at early innovations, pre-20th century, it was mainly around mechanization and telecommunication, which started almost in 1876. And with earlier 20th century, we started with electrification, then came automobiles, aviation. Mid-20th, we had computers, a lot of space exploration, a lot of money was spent on space exploration, and out of that came a lot of technologies which we continue to use. Late 20th century, obviously, came personal computers. Internet, 1989, first time we saw internet. And of course, in 80s we saw the mobile phone, which kind of changed our own behavior. If I look at early 21st century, smartphones, I think Apple launched its iPhone around 2007, almost it was. And then we saw social media, launch of Facebook. Cloud computing came in 2006. Now, in the last 10 years, very fast change. Internet of Things, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, 5G, quantum computing, and finally, as we are all always having this conversation around AI and machine learning. I was I was in Davos this year, and I was sharing with my fellow panelists that every session, whether you talked about health, whether you talked about productivity, whether you talked about social impact, the conversation was around AI. How is AI going to transform or impact every part of our life? So, of course, we're going to talk about the impact of AI in the various technologies, but we have an amazing set of panelists who are not only involved in governance, social impact, but also involved in advanced materials, in hardware, like semiconductors. So I'm looking forward to this today's session and having a conversation. So technology, as you all know, will continue to transform industries, economies, societies, and of course, it will drive innovation and improve quality of life for all of us. And what we see is that the pace of technology shows no sign of slowing down. And we are hoping that groundbreaking advancements we'll continue to see. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we will quickly start this session, and I'm going to invite each of the panelists to give their remarks in today's context, and they will also introduce themselves before that. Thank you. Thank you so much. May I now request Dr. Vijay Kumar Saraswat, Member Niti Aayog, Government of India, to make his presentation.
I'll change it. It's connected. Namaskar, good morning. I am Dr. V.K. Saraswat, presently member Niti Aayog. I was once upon a time for almost 45 years part of Defense Research and Development Organization, making missiles for the country. Retired as Secretary DRDO in 2013. Since then I am part of Niti Aayog, trying to do science, technology, innovation, trying to leverage India's capability in this and meeting the demands which have been put up today for using SNT for economic growth, and also being part of the journey which has been laid out by our Honorable Prime Minister, that is taking science and technology to the society and ensuring that it adds to the economy through translational research. I'm going to give you some glimpses of how India has performed so far. All of us know that science and technology has been the prime mover on the planet Earth globally for what it is today, in terms of all the luxuries, the comforts, the kind of lifestyles what we have. It is because of that. India's journey in this also post-independence is remarkable transformation because of SNT. One of the indicators which we normally talk these days, because we all talk of translation, our 40th position in the innovation index in 2023 from what we were in 2015, about 81. So you can see in just about 8 to 10 years where have we jumped. So today translation has been the buzzword for us. So third leader both in the number of startups and unicorns. We have more than 100 and odd unicorns, and we have almost a lakh of startups. We have got third largest number of PhDs and scientific publications globally, and the fourth nation to land on the moon, particularly on the South Pole, where probably nobody has done, which is a significant scientific achievement. This picture gives you the glimpse of how India has performed in various disciplines of S&T and how it has made contributions to the lifestyle as well as to the economy. In 1970, I'm not talking before that, because 1970 was the year when I entered into active R&D. I still remember my younger days when I used to stand in the queue for food, for collecting wheat for my family in the public distribution system, and the food will not be available because the PL480 from US would not come. From that green revolution, science and technology under the leadership of Dr. Swaminathan led to what today we are with extra stocks of food, almost 260 million tons what we have today. Concurrently, we had white revolution under Dr. Kurian, and as such, today we are number one as far as dairy and milk are concerned. We were not only working on these areas, but we were working in 70s. Our first Aryabhatta was there, satellite. We were also working on atomic energy. Our atomic energy plant came up. And we were denied computers in 80s. So we built our own Param 8000, our supercomputer at that point in time. In the area of space and defense, I think remarkable journey in terms of number of missiles like Prithvi, Agni, Prahar, Dhanush, Agni 5. And number of launch vehicles starting from SLV-3 to PSLV and GSLV, all that has happened today. We have tremendous growth as far as our communication is concerned, that today we have 4G, 5G network penetration. In the digital domain, we have laid out very important platforms like UPI, DigiYatra and so on. And we are all jumping towards quantum computing, jumping towards AI-related system. In fact, we are the first one who have done today AI supercomputer called Airavat. So the kind of progress which has happened in the last about 30 to 40 years is significant, and we are heading much towards what the S&T can do for the economic growth. But the transformation has been there today. I think the previous speaker did mention about how the S&T has grown from the industrial era to today. But our approach used to be once upon a time a conventional approach in which curiosity-driven scientific exploration was the major thing, where diverse disciplines were studied just to understand the universe and the world. Then we shifted towards application, where research was in applied areas, and application of science for practical purposes. This was actually during the Industrial Revolution. And then we have the independence, where specialized research institutions were created. All of us know that after independence we had IITs, NITs, IISers, and today large number of universities and educational institutions, academic institutions, where tremendous amount of work is going on. Largely, but it was siloed, driven by identified frontiers. As we see world over, we were also following that kind of research. But in the last 10 years, major focus has been now in going in a holistic and integrated mission mode approach. That's why the present government launched number of missions today, starting from hydrogen mission to supercomputing mission, semiconductor mission, deep ocean mission, precision agriculture mission, and so on, which actually is oriented towards interdisciplinary collaboration to tackle the problems. Now, the theme of this today's discussion is basically how the new age technologies are going to impact. The technologies actually are economic catalysts. They drive economic growth, foster innovation, and create new industries. They create jobs. There's a social impact which enhances access to essential services like healthcare and education. They create innovation hubs through the collaboration between industry, academia, and the national laboratories. And there are strategic imperatives for that, which is basically leapfrogging from traditional to the development pathways, remain competitive in the global market, and address complex social problems as we face. Some technologies which are going to make globally and also for India a major impact in the coming years. And those are 25 major technologies which have been identified. All of us know today that we are talking of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on, wearables, cloud, digital twins, 5G, automation, quantum computing, digitally extended realities, autonomous vehicles, all of 3D, 4D printing, additive manufacturing. All these technologies are on the anvil. Many of them have really reached the level of maturity. Many of them are yet to reach the level of maturity. But the fact remains that global assessment of the impact of these technologies is significant. I was reading the other day an article where they said that starting from Internet of Things to what is the quantum computing, which is the latest what we are talking of, each of these technologies in varying order will contribute to something like $2 trillion to about $10 trillion in terms of economic impact. So obviously we have to leverage all of them in terms of driving the economic growth. Now, unlocking opportunities, applications, what we have done in India is very well known. Some of them I would like to reiterate here. Digital India mission, which accelerates inclusive growth by integrating electronic services, products, manufacturing, and job creation. Digital villages to digital literacy and financial inclusion, which has happened. These technologies have catalyzed an era of application-oriented research and entrepreneurship. You know, Digital India, CoWIN, Aadhaar, UPI, DigiLocker, unified application for new governance, startup missions, and so on. All of them are part of the digital platforms, what we call as the digital infrastructure of the country, which is responsible for all this. It has also led to the financial inclusion, which has witnessed low smartphone and internal penetration, which was there in 2014, had to rely heavily on cash transactions. Today, affordable smartphones and data have the highest volume of digital payments. You can see the bars which are indicating we are going up to 2,000 millions, and our 66% penetration on the 4G connectivity and smartphone in 2022. And the cost of data is coming down to as low as 7 rupees per GB. So that is the kind of improvement that has taken place. Same is the case in the case of banking financial inclusions. 47 years of progress in banking financial inclusion within 1 decade has taken place. It has affected the positive relation, which is identified here, per capita and adults with bank account, and also positive relation having a bank account and having the ID. These are the things which have really made the difference today. The kind of digital technologies have helped, and all of us witnessed this happening during the COVID period. The CoWIN platform was used for the end-to-end rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine, and it was built using DIVOC, the digital infrastructure for verifiable open credentializing and open source software for digital certification. And we were able to reach such a large number, 2.15 billion vaccine doses in just about two years. Technology commercialization, I think it's one of the most important things that has been propagated by our Honorable Prime Minister. Most of the time, the research used to be confined in academic institutions with the publication of papers and not translating that into economic activity or to the market. So that is what has happened, that now commercialization is focusing on scientific discoveries into marketable products and services. That's why patenting technology, licensing, forming startups, securing funding, and scaling up production have become the order of the day. We are spurring growth by fostering entrepreneurship. Impact of nation's technology commercialization approach, driven by robust policies and initiatives, has led to India's innovators and startups are increasingly filing for patents, and educational institutions are actively participating in the patenting indigenous technologies. One technology, which is one area where the technology is going to make a major impact, is reaching the net carbon zero. If we are going to use technology of today For example, carbon capture technologies, ocean-based carbon sequestration and all that. The first graph indicates that if we do today we are about 2 gigatons of carbon dioxide. If we continue to, on the same vein, the blue curve, it says about 1.3% per annum is the emission intensity will be reduced. Then we will reach about 11.8 gigatons by about 2070, adding about 207 gigatons of carbon dioxide. But if we follow what is called the line of sight scenario, which is following the NDC existing currently announced policies, and also the technology advancements what we have done today, then shift in demand to sustainable alternatives, going for EVs and alternative fuels, then you will be peaking up in about 2038 or 37 to about 3.8 and reach in 2070 about less than 1 or almost 1 gigatons. But if we go for technology in a big way, adopt new policies such as carbon pricing, and also technology breakthroughs like carbon capture, utilization and storage, small modular nuclear reactors, faster implementation of all the renewable energy programs, then go for first faster accelerated penetration of EV, alternative materials, greening of our industry, then we can have, even in 2028 or 29, about 3.4 will be our contribution maximum, and we will reach by 2050 almost the net zero. So technology can really leverage this kind of a net zero scenario what we are talking. And for that, these are some of the technologies which will completely transform and allow us to reach the net zero transition. Clean coal technologies, which will unearth the efficient utilization of indigenous coal reserves. Carbon capture, utilization and storage, which will mitigate the carbon in the difficult to abate sector. Hydrogen and natural gas, enabling clean fuels. Use of methanol, ethanol and ammonia as alternative fuels for reducing the combustion emissions. Nuclear SMR or small modular reactors to act as a base load for the renewable power, mobility through EV, renewable energy in a large measure using the wind, solar, ocean technologies, pump storage system, new chemistries for batteries and so on. The major impact it has made is in the health and the family welfare. The e-Sanjeevani program has served more than 243 million patients since its launch. The Ayushman Bharat digital mission is realizing the vision of building a digitally connected healthcare ecosystem. And over 33 crore health records of individuals have been linked to their Ayushman Bharat health accounts. 5.85 lakh operational common service centers under Digital India have been formed. Education is a very important area which we really realize the importance of digital during the COVID. India has a complex education system because we use almost 22 languages as medium of instruction. 60 educational boards are there in our country and separate state curriculum. For this digital infrastructure of knowledge sharing, Diksha, under the Ministry of Education for Learning supports multiple languages solutions. Diksha offers almost 21,000 courses and 200,000 pieces of content and 31 Indian languages from 11,845 contributors. If you see the numbers in terms of users, 60 billion learning minutes in usage and 141 million course completions that have been realized. Approximately 180 million students and 7 million teachers have been benefited. Biomanufacturing, this is one area where India is really doing well in terms of skilled human manpower is available. 50% of nation's population being under the age of 25, which is contributing as a skilled workforce in this segment. Government support is 9 DPT supported biotech parks and 60 BIREX supported incubators exist today to promote this. And we have epidemiologic factors like patient pool expected to increase over 20% in the next 10 years, mainly due to the rising population. These are the numbers which give you that we have 74 bio-incubators. Expected CAGR is about 17%, and products and technologies which are supported by this is almost 750. All of you know about the space. I won't reiterate much, but India has done significantly well in terms of social impact of the space. NAVIC integration of GPS and GIS, harnessing space technology for the social welfare. Of course, our journey towards moon landing on the South Pole, all that. And also now, we are probably one of the cheapest launch, satellite launch system what we have world over, because our cost of doing space research and development and production is probably lowest. And with the opening of the space for the private sector, I am sure that this technology will be leveraged more and more for the economic growth. Defense is also on equal footing in terms of modernization. It started with the Integrated Guided Missiles Program first time in 1980s, where IGMD was there for production, design, development of large number of missiles, which also led to later on indigenous aircraft carrier, now indigenous missile launch and testing. And also we are able to now have anti-missile system, the Shakti experiment which was there. The technologically we are making our country more secured. And now we have formed a defense space agency to safeguard our space assets also. Nuclear energy. India has a 3-stage nuclear program as enunciated by Dr. Homi Bhabha. Showcase is scientific and capability despite global constraints. We have a fleet mode of the pressurized heavy water reactors, almost 700 watt, which are under construction. 23 PHWRs in fleet mode and plans on enhancing its energy by tripling the contribution of nuclear energy. Mega science, we are partner to the world efforts on the mega science, like facility for anti-proton and ion research, Large Hadron Collider, Indian-based neutrino observatory, interferothermonuclear experiment. That only shows that we are at par as far as our scientific capabilities are concerned in the mega science area. Ocean is one area which the country has on to the Deep Ocean Mission, which is part of our Blue Economy program. Basically, we want to exploit all the ocean-based minerals like cobalt and lead sulfide and so on, which are there. So for Deep Ocean Mission, we want to go for strategic trade routes. We want to ensure maritime security and also build some research and innovation hubs, establishing India as a hub for oceanographic research and development. So this will be part of the Deep Ocean Mission. Now, why is it important that we become a global leader? So global innovation powerhouse will come, which will foster the economic prosperity, tackling the societal challenges, and of course creation of dissemination of knowledge. Leading innovator attracts talent. All this is our important. So the strategies now onwards are that we should increase our investment on R&D. We should foster more of collaboration. We should promote entrepreneurship and establish more and more innovation hubs. We should set measurable goals, define clear quantifiable targets and timelines, which will enable the 5 trillion economy, what we are talking of. Streamlining the regulations, implement policy reforms to simplify regulatory processes, incentivize R&D in the private sector particularly, so that we will be in a position to benefit from the excellent skill set which is available and the kind of passion that can be created there. Fourth, global partnerships and monitor and adapt, develop robust monitoring and evaluation mechanism so that we will be in a position to achieve what ultimately is the lever which can exercise using the science and technology. So friends, S&T is the driver. S&T is the one which can actually take us to the desired goal of economic development, GDP growth, and also bring at par the enterprise business, the startups, and also reduce unemployment. So this is the lever I would like to recommend and hope that this platform will take us to a new higher height as far as the leveraging of S&T and the technology for the new age development is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Saraswat, for giving a very comprehensive picture at India's policy level, from the beginning, from Green Revolution, finally to the going to the moon. So thank you so much. And may I now invite Vrinda to give her opening remarks.
Thank Thank you, sir, and thank you for having me on this panel today. So I'm going to take a slightly different perspective on India and technology, since we've got this great overview of where we have been and where we're headed as a country. So since this is a business summit, I'd like to talk about not just the impact that technology is going to have on business, but here on the ground floor in India and our tech ecosystem, how business is really going to have an impact on technology. And I'd like to start with one thought. Prior to 2019, the world was obsessed with software. Everybody thought that, the next 10 unicorns are only going, or the next 100 unicorns or the next decade of the world is only going to happen on software. And then 2020 came. Supply chains got disrupted. And the one thing that's grown as a constant is NVIDIA's stock price. So really, everything that we talk about the future of this world is really going to be centered around innovations that we can create in hardware. Innovations in hardware are some of the most difficult problems that we need to solve. I mean, Silicon Valley got its genesis from hardware, from the semiconductor revolution back in the 70s. We here in India are a couple of decades behind in how we think about hardware and monetizing businesses around hardware. I'll give you a small example. Last year, I was at a very interesting conference that was held in Goa. The sponsor of the conference was Eric Schmidt himself. And he sent me this article. This article talked about chasing good quests. And I'd love to read from there a couple of lines just to make the point as eloquently as the speaker did. So they say that at the dawn of the 20th century, the Wright brothers embarked on a good quest to build the first controlled airplane. Half a century later, NASA embarked on another good quest to put man on the moon. Combustion engines, penicillin, nuclear fission, the discovery of America, the drafting of a constitution, Normandy. History is defined by protagonists pursuing good quests. Then they give another example. They say that when PayPal wound up, the PayPal mafia, as it was called, went on to fight good quests, build extremely valuable businesses. SpaceX is just an example of one of those businesses. And then the meltdown of Silicon Valley, the Facebook mafia. The first couple of multi-millionaires that Facebook produced just became VCs investing in software businesses. So good quests failed. They say that today Silicon Valley is in a crisis. The world's top operators, most moneyed founders, and most powerful investors are almost all on bad quests. Exits for the sake of exits, consumer goods. But are we driving the next wave of science and technology that's going to change our world? The answer is, really we're not. So that's why the business community becomes really powerful to be able to impact the future dawn of technology and what technology can enable for us. The second theme that I'd like to talk about is deglobalization and how it is fueling an industrial renaissance. So it's no big news now that 2023 really changed the geopolitics of this world, starting with the Russian invasion of Ukraine and going on to the current conflict that we're looking at in the Middle East. We are looking at a world market which is escalating geopolitical tensions, a new generation of technology denial, something that India is not unfamiliar to at all, and a critical strategic shift. Every country is feeling the need to fuel a domestic industrial revolution. We're calling it in India here India's decade or India's civilizational renaissance. Now this is something which we see government incentives for the first time coming on board to completely change the game. Just look at the multi-billion-dollar investments that the CHIPS Act in the US is putting out every week. And we see what is required to push the future of this sector. It's not just chips. The US is rolling out that same kind of investment on infrastructure, railways, roads, connectivity. Not very different from when Hitler built the Autobahn in Germany during the World War. What they're doing is creating incentives to build domestic operations, skill domestic manpower, build physical and digital infrastructure, and encouraging domestic investment. The US federal government is looking to navigate the challenges of deglobalization by incentivizing reshoring and fostering a more secure and resilient supply chain. What does this mean for us in the Indian context? In the Indian context, it means that for capital allocators, for founders, for industry, there is a unique wave of opportunity that comes from this shift to bring capability home, to bring technology home. Against a backdrop of trillions of dollars from the PLI scheme to the Indian semiconductor mission to the modernization of the Indian defense ecosystem, we have, for the first time, non-dilutive government funding and the resulting tailwinds to not restore, but to the first time bring critical industry, company, and different pools of capital in a trusted framework to India. So what does that really mean for India? India has grown on a trader mindset. We buy, we add a layer on top, and we sell. We need to change that if we want to realize any of our own ambitions, forget the government's ambitions of what India needs to grow to in the next 2 decades. Let's look at a very simple example, climate change. Climate change requires not just the setting up of renewable energy plants, but investments of billions of dollars into semiconductors, gallium nitride and silicon carbide that are going to enable this energy transition. As a simple example, today 20% of the UK's power consumption is already going towards data centers. With the explosion of large language models and AI, this is going to get to a point where it is unsustainable given the current paradigm of energy storage. As another simple example to add to this, just by using better and more efficient semiconductors, the cost of cooling a data center can be brought down by 5% at data center scale. Immense cost saving, immense energy saving. As another example, Philips in the 90s spun off 3 companies, in the 80s rather. Today, those spin-offs of Philips are worth more than 20 times the market cap of Philips itself. So Philips is sitting on a market cap of $20 billion today. Its first most impactful spin-up, NXP, which is probably going to power all of our passports in the next decade, has a market cap today of about $50 billion. AMD, the company that is at the crossroads of the US-China spat in enabling semiconductor ecosystem, $240 billion market cap. And TSMC, a company that Philips, the Taiwanese government, and Mr. Morris started in the 1980s, today has a market cap of $19 trillion. So a 20 billion company seeded a company which is worth $19 trillion today, probably one of the most geopolitically strong and relevant companies of our times today. So the question for Indian business is, can we use these regulatory tailwinds? Can we use our history of technology denial? Can we use our budding innovation ecosystem over here to shift from a procurement-built mindset or a procurement-led mindset to a for India, from India mindset? Thank you.
Thank you, Vrinda, for your comments. I know you have built a unique company supplying semiconductor hardware to the Indian defense as well as to the US defense. So thank you very much for your comments. Milind, I know you've come all the way from Montreal.
Yes.
And maybe it's a good idea if you introduce yourself and make your comments. Okay. Yeah, it works.
Okay. Hi, good morning. Hari, thank you so much. Thank you, CII, for inviting me. As you said, Hari, I came all the way from Montreal. I was in Kenya, then from Kenya yesterday or day before I was in Portugal. So I come from a background in aerospace, and this is what I do for my living, the topic of our session, how to bring this new age technology, what the customer is looking for. That's what I've been doing for the last 20 years. To an organization called CANIAS, Canada, Europe, US. So we created this consortium in 2000, 99-2000. There was a lot of hype in nanotechnology then. Nanotechnology would do bio, aerospace, everything. So we wanted to see what is really the reality and what could bring it to the customer, what is looking for. So I had a mandate from the government of Canada to develop the roadmap and strategy for Canada for 10 years, from 2000 to 2015. To create a roadmap. So it was a contract. I looked at all the scenarios everywhere, what was going on into this emerging bio, nano, info triangle, so-called, And then, of course, this AI and some of the other technologies which are coming. We focus a lot of work. So as I said, background is more into the aerospace space. I was working on the space station monitoring, and when the space station monitoring system was being designed. So we looked at where Canada, a small country, working with, let's say, Europe, US, and so on, could develop nano sensors, materials, systems that the industry customer is looking for, the newest technology. We found a lot of opportunities, but lots of challenges. And those challenges is what we really made a success. Lots of this, close to a few $100 million of consortia and so on. And that journey brought me last year to the CII, the G20, B20. We had a B20 task force, Chris Gopalakrishnan, Baba Kalyani, and so on, how to commercialize deep technology. That was my mandate. So that was what I led this on behalf of CII. So I'm going to share with you briefly what we found, the recommendations, and how this we can leverage for India. So I have two very specific suggestions, and then coming back to Hari, you mentioned about the World Economic Forum, So I've been going on in this forum for many years. 2019, I was negotiating with Klaus Schwab, partnership between our organization, CANIS, and World Economic Forum. So what we bring to the table, each other. So this point, I want to bring how India we can leverage here. So the first point, all these emerging or the newest technologies, especially the triangle I was saying, bio, nano, info, the quantum sensing, and so on. Lot of this emerging sourcing has a lot of potential, but the customer who is so-called technology readiness level, which is 5 to 8. So the technology which are coming from the low technologies, the IITs and so on, the research labs, 1 to 3, is very difficult to transition what the customer is ready to pay for the products and systems, but not for the in the middle part, which is the so-called mid-TRL, we call mid-technology level, valley of death. You must have heard this for so often, the valley of death, valley of death. So we created CANIS in 2001 just to address this valley of death. We looked at what are the things that basically we need to cross the valley of death, or we need to create a step ladder, especially the skills issue that Dr. Saraswat mentioned. India has a big challenge with the skills. To take this newest technology, what the end customer is looking for. So what we observed and what we feel that India needs is not the valley of death to cross the bridge, but we need a step ladder. We need financial mechanism. We need not the government funding. Because what happened that the VCs are not there to invest into these newest technologies. You need some mechanism. So in the G20, B20, we came up with some recommendations, creating, for example, new bond fund, which is industry-led. This is something that we like to see if India could, fund. So my two basically recommendations for the challenges and opportunities for India for this new technology. The first one is we have an opportunity to create this mid-TRL valley of death, to cross it, but to create a step ladder, especially if India wants to be the key player into this. This is something which is the B20 now. I'm doing it for Brazil, and we're implementing for AI-based advanced materials as a topic for this thing. The second one, the reason I'm really passionate here, as I said, I made close to 7-8 trips in the last 7 months to India. I want India, this deep technology, the newest technology, to be the next Davos. See, Davos, when Klaus Schwab created, was the economic forum. I see India is the next 5 years, 10 years in a position to create that Davos of deep technologies, Hari. So this is something I foresee. If we can come together, especially the industry, I'm an industry person, if we can come together creating this so-called challenges to address this valley of death, the mid-technology ready levels, issues with the IPR, issues with the funding, issues with the, especially the collaboration models, and the most important, the use cases. If we can work on the industry on the use cases, come up with this thing. I think India, in my opinion, 27, 28 or 30, I foresee that India would be like the Davos of these new age technologies, Thank you, Hari.
Thanks. Thanks so much. May I now invite Ashmita Sethi. She's the president and country head of Pratt & Whitney.
Thank you, Mr. Bharatya. So he's already introduced me. I am president and country head of Pratt & Whitney India. I joined the company in 2020 from Boeing, having spent about 8 years there and 12 years with Rolls-Royce aircraft engines. So aerospace and defense is almost in my blood. Having come to Pratt & Whitney in 2020, I think we've been on a huge trajectory of investments in India, in our engineering center, in our capability center, in our digital center out of Bangalore. We already have a training center which actually works on real-time engines and caters to about 60 airlines across the world and imparts very specialized training courses on aircraft engines right here out of India. So as a leading aerospace and defense company, I think, like you said, Milind, engine manufacturing company, leveraging new age technologies, developing new age technologies is at the core of what we do at Pratt & Whitney. We literally are in the business of developing new age technologies. Both science and technology are at the heart of solving the greatest challenges of 21st century. So technology-based businesses, we do believe, that have a very important role to play in developing innovative solutions. So improving the efficiency of our engines and their sustainability impact is not something new to us. We've been working on this for a long time. And today it's clear that responding to today's environmental challenge, we will need these highly technically sophisticated, evolved solutions. We are committed to innovation, that's the least I can say. And we are committed to our customers that demand advanced technology and efficient products. So talking of India, in the last decade, recent technological innovations that we have done have saved our customers across the world billions and gallons of fuel and reduced the carbon emission impact across the world, I said, and right here in India as well. So Pratt & Whitney has about 85,000 engines in service globally, which include about 13,000 large commercial engines and 7,000 military engines across about 34 armed forces, including the Indian Air Force. So we have the C-17, which the Indian Air Force uses here, and the flagship aircraft, the C-295, which is going to be manufactured in India, will be powered by Pratt & Whitney engines. On the military side, the highest level of technology in the fifth generation fighters is on the F-35 aircraft and the F-22 Raptor aircraft, both fighters. And I'm proud to say that Pratt & Whitney powers both those with our engines. So you can see technology is the heart of what we do. Now, talking specifically about hardware first, since Vrinda was, emphasizing that, just about aircraft engines, a single crystal turbine blade is a very small component in an aero engine which has more than 4,000 parts. But it illustrates a big part of what it takes to be in a high-tech business like ours. where we push the boundaries of metallurgy and we make this blade that has to be capable of performing in a high pressure turbine where the temperatures go up to about 1600 degrees centigrade. And that single crystal blade is actually made up of an alloy, the boiling point of which is 200 degrees centigrade, over and above the melting point, over and above the melting point this single crystal blade is made of, is actually very difficult to, the kind of technology that must have gone into it, that this single crystal blade doesn't melt, in a temperature which is 1600 degrees centigrade. Our future engines will power the blended wing body jet design which is being developed. This is a new engine design being developed by a big startup in the US and of course is funded by the NASA as well. So this blended wing design actually mimics the wings of the aircraft, and it's the fuselage which goes into the wings. Now this aircraft is going to be highly fuel efficient because it's going to reduce the drag. So this is a marvel in aerodynamic efficiency that has been developed. These are some of the few future technologies that are being looked at, in development. And the NASA says this aircraft is going to be used by customers. Actually, it's going to be more economical than the current aircraft. It'll be lighter, and of course, it'll be reducing the impact. I won't, I'll wait for your next question, so I won't take a lot of time, but I'll just add on what we call the latest concept of digital twins. So we are using a lot of AI. We are doing what is Factory 4.0. We are using processes which are called the digital thread, and we are using autonomous enabled technologies in our manufacturing and our MRO processes. But let me just define our latest concept, what we call the digital twin in engineering, manufacturing, and aftermarket spaces. Day and night across the globe, data is literally flying through the air. Every time an airplane takes flight, sensors collect more than 300,000 pieces of information. So when you consider that there are more than 100,000 daily commercial flights worldwide, that's a hell of a lot of data. What if that input could be used to improve engine performance and to optimize time on wing? That's what's happening with this concept called the digital twin. The term represents a visual representation of a real system or process, such as a complete engine or a part of an engine, that is continuously calibrated by real-world data to reflect the reality on the field. So today, Pratt & Whitney engineers are creating digital twins that are transforming everything from design to manufacturing to maintenance. And this is a great development in engine diagnostic, prognostics, and health management. So coming to India, we are very encouraging of the ecosystem here. So I'll let that, please. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Ashmita. If I had more time, I would have certainly asked you, how are you bringing all these technologies to India to build an ecosystem for engine manufacturing?
I'll just answer with one quick example that, last year we've already launched a tool called Percept with one of the startups in India, which can scan an engine and actually discover all the missing parts by, and not opening the entire engine. So that's a huge development in technology, which we are monetizing and commercializing across our engines.
Thanks. Ipsita, I know you are the last speaker, but I expect to hear from you. We had a nice, interesting conversation about smartphone and PC. How do they interchange, or will smartphone play the role of PC or not? So maybe in your
Absolutely
comments.
not, but I'll get there.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. Let me just start with acknowledging what we all know, which were the comments that the Honorable Finance Minister made this morning about the staggering growth that we're seeing in India and that we'll see over the next 5 to 10 years. And one thing is clear to the entire world and to us as well, which is India is not only the consumer base of the future, India is the future workforce. If you look at our demographics and all of the ambitions that we have as business as well as government, there's no question about that. So linked to that, I'm going to talk about 5 areas of focus on technology that I think are really important for us to consider. First, as Hari said, everyone is talking about artificial intelligence. And there was a lot of talk about it in Davos, but there's a lot of talk about it everywhere. But a lot of that conversation has been around AI through web browsers and through the cloud. What's really going to be game-changing and interesting that we'll start to see in the next few months is AI at the edge. And essentially, AI at the edge means that PCs can process on device and use cloud when needed. That creates less latency, better security, energy efficiency, and lowers costs. And a little bit later, I'll talk about us imagining what that really means for people and what that means for creation. The second area of focus that I'll just quickly touch upon is collaboration made easy and natural. So one of the things that we saw through COVID, and we hear more and more from GCCs, is that after people went back to their hometowns from the cities like Bangalore, Mumbai, Pune, Gurgaon, through COVID, many of them didn't want to come back. And they had good reason not to want to come back. Young people found it too expensive to live in cities and live badly in cities that were overcrowded. And they were much closer to their extended families, which is a way that we live. 70% of India lives in 3-generational families. So one of the realizations that we've had as a business community is that remote work is going to stay, and there's not much we can do to change that, so we should embrace it. But there's another factor to think about around this as well. Only 32.8% of our women are in the workforce. We trail behind almost every country in the world, save a few, Afghanistan included below us. That, if you think about the value that remote work provides to allow and enable and unlock an entire gender to be able to work, it's quite staggering. The third area that I want to talk about is the phenomenal rise of SMBs and the role that technology can play with SMBs. And one of the interesting factors is that if you look at the MSME productivity ratio in India, it's 26. For other emerging markets, it's 29. For mature markets, it's around 60. So the ability to make MSMEs more productive is going to be a huge part of what creates growth for us in this economy. And so what can that mean? Largely what we're seeing is the technology and know-how as a service, like CIO as a service for SMB, is truly meaningful. The fourth thing I want to talk about is the idea of personalized education and skilling software. You know, one of the things we're increasingly starting to see is that the rate at which technology is moving and trends are occurring, nobody's really an expert on anything anymore. So the need at a skilling level, all the way from white collar down to almost every socioeconomic strata, the ability to create software and the ability to allow people to train in a personalized manner is going to be really important. But the other piece that concerns me is students. If you think about the fact that we have 19 or 18% penetration, depending on the report you look at, of PCs in this country, essentially that means that in most households there is not a PC. And even in our most affluent households, children don't have, each child doesn't have a PC. That's not true in mature markets. Now, if you combine that with the AI PC, AI-enabled PC, and you think about the fact that the PC becomes a companion that can help you learn in a customized manner, for the best way for you to learn and best way for you to create, it puts us at a severe disadvantage compared to other markets in the world. And I'm just going to respond to Hari's point right now, though I know he's going to ask me this question later. The question he asked me in the speaker's lounge was, but why do we need the PC when there are smartphones? And I'm just going to give you two examples for you to answer that question yourself. Imagine 3 children, if you have 3 children, and you walk into a room after a day at work. One is on a PC, one is on a tablet, one's on the phone. Which one do you believe is doing their homework? Which one do you believe is on social media? Now imagine the same thing with your workforce. You walk into a conference room, you have 3 team members. One is on a PC, one is on a tablet, one's on the phone. Which one do you believe is most productive and which one do you believe is most creative? I can see this creating the most. I can see the smiles on your faces. I think I already know the answer. So PC penetration is going to be a really big part of how we create. You know, to Vrinda's point earlier and many points earlier, to be real creators in this market and not just consumers of content. We are going to have to sit in front of the device that helps us do that. And finally, one last trend I'm going to talk about, or tech area I'm going to talk about, is cybersecurity and safeguarding our data in a highly digitized world. Just to give you a statistic, Indian SMEs face an average of 37 cybersecurity incidents per day. And this amounts to a loss of nearly 7% in revenue over 12 months. That's really significant. So the idea of cybersecurity and the need to localize work, especially for SMBs that do not need to have work on the cloud all the time, is key. With that, I'll just hand back over to the panel.
No, thank you, Ipsita. But I must, as I shared with you, 90% of my emails I answer on my smartphone. So
Everyone else is doing the creating for you.
And a lot of small entrepreneurs run their entire business on WhatsApp. So I'm not trying to reduce the importance of PC, but I'm saying smartphone is also changing the way we work and everything. There are we have membership from CII here from many sectors. Companies which are legacy and which are now looking to technology to improve productivity. And I can share very quickly that I've been running legacy companies, but you'll be amazed to know how technology has completely disrupted these companies and how we had to transform. A simple business like selling pizza, today we have to be a food company and a tech company. In our corporate office, more than 1/3 people are from technology, data science, AI, and digital. So that's how businesses are transforming. Even a simple thing like drug discovery is now being done through AI, which we used to do purely manually earlier. So things are changing very fast. We have very little time. So I would request the panel just to make one last short comment as an advice to entrepreneurs, small-scale sector, large companies here. What is your advice of how we should look at technology? Short comment from each one of you. I'll start with you, Ipsita.
I think the importance of using technology for learning purposes is going to be the biggest thing as we look at this explosive growth with SMBs. So I would say focusing technology use, outsourcing things you don't need to do, and focusing technology use on learning and skilling.
Vrinda?
I would say I think the most significant unlock of value across the spectrum, startups, SMEs, innovators, and large companies, is going to come from how do we change financing structures to create new technologies that we can leverage.
Dr. Saraswat?
My last word on this is that, which I probably concluded also, that if we have to leverage technology in the full, in a complete way, I think the business units have to bring in a huge R&D culture in the country. The issue was talked about Atmanirbharta, that we are dependent on all our technology inputs today on largely import. All the industries are working based on imported technologies. Unless we bring in research and development, technology development as part of your portfolio, for which you should work with the government, I mentioned to you, there are a number of schemes with the government is now coming up where they would incentivize the private sector for promoting research and development. So I think that should be the main take as far as business is concerned.
Short comment from your
Okay.
side.
Yeah, I think the government is doing the right thing. It's talking about co-development and co-production in aerospace and aerospace products. And I think the way to go, like Vrinda said, is getting the capital, the funding, which will be very important because these are very, very capital-intensive technologies, and it would be very important to bring in that capital, whichever way, to make those things happen here.
Milind, a quick short comment.
Yes. So I would suggest is to use some of the MSMEs and so on, how to compress that S-curve to get the end user requirement, make the product specific for this quality. So how do you compress the S-curve to get the success? And the second and the last point is especially with the global thing, the UN Summit of the Future will be happening. There is a Pact of Future, and I would like that the Indian CII and the industry to play a key role because the SDGs are passed, and see if you can be more involved in the Pact of the Future with this new age technology. That would be.
Thank you, Milind. Now, I wish we had more time to discuss and debate. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. A big hand for our panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you to our speakers. And Mr. Bhartia, if I may now request you to please hand over a token of appreciation from CII to our esteemed panelists. Dr. V.K. Saraswat, Member Niti Aayog. Ms. Vrinda Kapoor, Co-founder and CEO, Third iTech. Dr. Milind Pimprikar, Chairman, Canius International. Ms. Ashwita Sethi, President and Country Head, Pratt & Whitney. Ms. Ipsita Dasgupta, Senior VP and Managing Director, HP India. May I also request Ms. Vrinda Kapoor to kindly hand over a token for Mr. Bhartia as well. Could I please request all our speakers to stand together for a quick photo opportunity? Thank you, speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the close of this session. Request you to kindly stay seated as the next session in Darbar Hall with the EAM will begin right away.